Learning Perek Aleph Halacha Vav. The Rambam begins. Kishem sheshvus malocha boy bein bayom bein balaylo. Just like you're not allowed to do any malocha, any forbidden activity, both by day and both by night. We'll go down to the Peirush. This is the Lashon Machon Nesher HaGadol. Yom HaKippurim leilo ki yom l'chol davar. That Yom Kippur, its night is like its day regarding everything. What are the things that are forbidden in the night just as in the day? Malocha, actual 39 malachas, achila, eating, shiur, drinking, rechitza, bathing, sicha, smearing oil, nilas, a sandal, placing shoes, tasher, shamita, having relationships. That means on the night of Yom Kippur, there is the same for everything, both the night and the day. This is what the Rambam means here, that everything that's forbidden is both by day and by night. And that also has to do with regard to inui. The tormenting is both by night and by day. The Gra in his clarification writes that you learn inui from the pasuk v'nisim es nafshesechem b'tisha lechodesh ba'erev, that you shall begin to afflict yourself from the night of the on the ninth day in the evening. The pasuk continues, from evening till evening shall you rest this Sabbath. The question is, Rambam would seem to say you learn it from Malocha. That just like Malocha, Shabbos is night and day, not from a pasuk. But the words of the Rambam are based on the Gemara Yuma 81b. There we find that there are 5 negative commandments by Issa Malocha and Yom Kippur. Parashat Chimois, once, and 3 times Parashat Emoel, and 1 in Parashat Pinchas, to tell you 5 things. You don't do work by day, you don't do work by night, and if you do work by day, you're chayav koros, you do Malocha by night, you're chayav koros, and the last one is to tell you that both by day and by night, besides the work, you're we learn it from the Malocha, which is both day and night, that you have to afflict yourself also day and night. So you see in the Gemara, you learn it from Malocha. It's a Malocha, they're not doing activities which are forbidden, and the eating and drinking on Yom Kippur is also a negative commandment and a positive commandment. The Rabbi Manoach writes, the Rambam was very careful to say that just like the refraining from work, so is the refraining from the obligation to rest from inui. He means from the positive commandment, it's more clarified the mitzvah of fasting, that the night is by day rather than from work itself. As we find in the pasuk, v'nisem, which is a positive commandment, v'nisem is nafshesechem, you shall afflict your souls, from evening to evening. But with regard to the loises of the negative commandment, it has more to do with the forbidden activities, that night is like day, than eating. As we learned in the Gemara Yuma, and the negative commandment, that night is by its day, we learn from the Issa Malocha. So you have 2 limudim, one is for the positive commandment, one is for the negative commandment. That's why, thus, the Gemara is basically talking about the positive commandment, and the Rambam is talking about the negative commandment. Rambam writes, in Yom Kippur, everyone agrees that one has to add from the secular day preceding it to the holy day, both when it on the onset and when it ends. Shenema, as it says in Vayikra, v'nisem es nafshesechem, you shall afflict yourselves, v'tisha lachodesh ba'erev, on the 9th of the month in the evening, meaning kloima, meaning his chulutzoim l'sanis me'erev tisha ha'somach la'asiri. Start the fast on the 9th, close to the 10th, because the 10th starts at night. Why does it say on the 9th of the month? So from here we learn that you have to add from the 9th to the 10th. So too when it ends, you should wait a while. From the night, Milel Achad also, from the night of the 11th Somach La'asiri, which is close to the 10th. Shenema me'erev ad erev tishbishu shabbatchem. That from evening till evening, you should. It's talking about the evening before and the evening afterwards. The language ad erev till the evening would mean, it seems to say including. Otherwise, it would mean until night, and that's it. That means even after Yom Kippur. So the Levush says in Siman Tufresh Ches. Magen Mishnah infers from the Rambam, and the obligation of resting from work is only by tormentation and not by work. And therefore, in Hilchos Shabbos, the Rambam doesn't write that there's a din of Toys Shabbos Minat Torah. That this only applies to the things that one is not of eating and drinking and wearing shoes. And he adds that this is a disagreement between two brises, and the Rambam seems to have decided the issue like the first brisa, that there's no mitzvah to add from the weekday on the holy day only regarding affliction. The Rif is, though, opinions that even on Shabbos Yom Tovim, when there's no affliction, it also applies, so it must be applying to the forbidden activities. Lecha Mishnah, in his second clarification, questions on the Magen Mishnah, that the Rambam seems to codify the Halacha like the first brisa. In that brisa, it says that even for tainas, there's no din of adding to Yom Kippur. The Rambam would seem to codify the Halacha that there is an obligation. The Lecha Mishnah answers that by Malacha, the Rambam paskins like Rabbi Akiva, that there's no addition, no obligation to add from the secular on the holy, neither by work nor by inui, because the Lord like Rabbi Akiva, when he disagrees with one of his compatriots, and therefore by Malocha there's no addition of Chol ala Kodesh. But regarding inui Yom Kippur, he doesn't paskin like Rabbi Akiva, because the Gemara explains in Bayam Teiz Yom Kippur is deraisa, so it has to apply to something. It applies to the inui. Therefore, regarding Malocha, he paskins like Rabbi Akiva against Rabbi Yishmael. But regarding inui, even though Rabbi Akiva would say there's no obligation to add, we have a Gemara in Beya which says there is an obligation to add for something, and therefore the Rambam says the halacha there would be more than one of his compatriots against him, and therefore the halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva. According to many of the codifiers of the halacha, and those that bring the Magen Mishnah brings, now you have to add from the weekday secular onto the Kodesh, and every holy day, including Shabbos and Yom Tov. And also Yom Kippur you have to add from Minat Torah, that's Minat Torah. Not only regarding the afflictions, but also the Gabi not doing work. But the Rambam is, according to the Magen Mishnah, that it only applies to, according to the Rambam, to affliction, but not the Mlocha, and neither on Yom Kippur or Shabbos. And in Minat Torah there's no obligation to add from Shabbos on a regular Shabbos from the weekday on Kodesh. The Halacha, the Mechaber writes in the name of Yesh Aimrim, that you have to add from the secular day to Kodesh. The Halacha, he explains that he says Yesh Aimrim because the Rambam disagrees. And therefore he writes that the conclusion of the Gra in his clarification is the Rambam, there's no obligation to add on Shabbos and Yom Tov, and that's the opinion of Tosfos. The Eliyahu Rama writes that we go according to the Yesh Aimrim, you have to add from Chol ala Kodesh. According to the Rishonim that we mentioned before earlier, the Rosh, etc., and in Rosh Hashanah 9, Yom 81, that the whole din of Tosfos is only by the beginning of Shabbos, but after Shabbos, the Mechaber writes, you wait till after Ma'ariv in order to add Chol ala Kodesh. He doesn't say because of Yesh Aimrim, and the question is why doesn't he say that there are those who say it's an obligation.